She's highly insecure. She feels out of place. You know, I talked to the author Tom Quinn, who said she was cruel to staff at Kensington Palace because she was already paranoid that they were never going to respect her.
Harry's coming, isn't he? I mean, she's going to Nigeria, he's coming to England. He and Harry apparently are going to meet up, which that'll be twice in 6 months. And Ryan said that's more than he meets people in his family in that time. So that's not bad, isn't it?
Well, we don't know for sure that he's meeting up. I mean, that's I think feels like it's the words coming from the other side rather than this side, because the King's Diary on Wednesday is quite busy. So hopefully he will find time. I'm sure he would want to. But look, it's you know, it's all about the diaries, and the King is a busy man. Even on Wednesday, he's got a pack full of events. So it won't be easy to engineer this meeting as Harry comes in for this Invictus ceremony at St. Paul's Cathedral, and then I believe he goes straight to Nigeria, which is under the guise of sort of, they may want to stage Invictus, but clearly it feels like a quasi-royal visit in all but name. And, you know, Nigeria and the security issue, it just puts into question some things that Harry and Meghan sometimes say. But there they go to Nigeria, and if they get Nigeria signed up to stage the Invictus Games, then that can only be a good thing.
A year ago today, that coronation. What a hell of a lot has been rammed into that year for the royal family, my friend.
Yeah, good. And then obviously the last few months there's been quite a lot of bad for them to deal with, particularly for the King. And I think that's what's been deeply frustrating for him, because as he's been described recently as something like a caged lion, as he wants to get back to public-facing duties as quickly as possible. But he is, I think, can look back with a degree of satisfaction, because with polls coming out suggesting that he has maintained a level of popularity. Obviously, there is a sympathy element to it as well. But I think you've got to say that overall, it's been a very successful transition from his perspective, taking over from the longest-serving monarch we've had in this country. So
I think that's right, Billy, and I think that people, I mean, I've always been a massive fan, because I've always said to you, haven't I, that I think the problem is that if you spend your entire life knowing that the only job that you're born for will only happen when your mother dies, if you say anything, you're accused of interfering. If you say nothing, you're poncing off the society. But I feel like he's really connected with British people in the last 12 months, more so than ever. And I get what you're saying about the fact that he's been ill, and that will garner sympathy. But I feel like he's actually, yes, I just feel he's come down to the level, I don't know, I just feel that people perhaps feel they know him a bit more. And I thought his openness about cancer, a very different way of the monarchy going on, I think that's been really important as well.
It looks like Harry will meet the King, and I'm delighted about that, because I do think they need to meet. Meghan, of course, not coming. Yeah. But apparently, according to this article, which is in the Express this morning, Prince Harry's meeting with the King could be cut awkwardly short. Apparently, he should be the royal family's guest of honour when he makes his highly anticipated return to the UK this week. He's going to an event, this is on Wednesday, at St Paul's Cathedral in London. This is to mark the 10th anniversary of the Invictus Games. Meghan Markle not coming, by the way, because it's not about her. It's also unclear the King's Diary, but essentially he's got a garden party. There seems to be a window when they could be together, and actually I think they need to get together.
I think they certainly need to get together, I really do. But interestingly, are Meghan and Mary...
Meghan and Mary, yeah.
Are they not heading off to
Are
they not heading off to Nigeria afterwards?
Right, but so
the whole Meghan thing just completely, it really perturbs me, because I think, you know, there's so much out there in terms of what she has done, and I think what she has done has actually disabled the family. Wives should be there to unify families, not disable them.
Or partners, not wives.
Okay, partners, whatever. Yeah, exactly. But in this case, she's his wife.
Well, it's interesting, when you look at this, there's a new poll which has been conducted by the Mail on Sunday, released yesterday, conducted by Ipsos, and they looked at 2,166 British adults. They found, much to her horror, only 25% were fans of the Duchess of Sussex. This poll is on the, as we said, the one-year anniversary of the coronation. Excuse me. And although basically the King's popularity and the Queen's, or the Queen Consort's popularity, have risen. Meghan Markle's remains low.
Well, I'm not a massive monarchist, and I think, you know, the slimmed down monarchy has affected King Charles more than he had actually thought it would. And again, the hardest working royal in my view, and one of the best, is Princess Anne.
She is such a trooper.
She is just...
But actually, I think this is why the public have changed their attitude to Camilla, because they've seen her roll up her sleeve. She's got on with it. And you're right, when you look at the working royals, there aren't many left, actually. Are there? No. So you have a lot of work to do. You then have to divvy it up, and that's why, actually, I think they need Harry back.
I'm quite looking forward to the next season of The Crown now.
Yeah, well, quite.
It might be cut down a bit.
I mean, the issue I have is, how do William and Harry get back together? Because I think there's such a sort of bad blood between those two boys.
And especially with Princess of Wales's cancer diagnosis too. And there's no comms in terms of how she's doing, how she's performing with the treatment, how that's going, what the stage of cancer is, indeed where it was. And that's all gone quiet, thankfully.
But maybe that concentrates minds, because actually when you're... I don't know if it is life-threatening.
The three of them were so
close. I know they were.
And it was lovely to see. And they worked really well together. They had a beautiful camaraderie. The brothers were very close. And I'm sorry, but Meghan has just completely upturned that apple cart.
From my point of view, when he was Prince Charles, he kind of seemed like this rather aloof fuddy-duddy who we just associated with that really horrible, acrimonious split from Diana, and that I think took him a long time to recover from. And yet, as monarch, I think he is so accessible. He's really humanised the royal family. The Queen, and we all absolutely adored her, was ever the stoic. There was protocol that if you go and meet the Queen, don't, you know, like, was it Barack Obama who tried to give her a hug, or Michelle Obama? You don't do that. You don't touch the Queen. You know, the most you got was that sort of cheeky grin and the twinkle in her eye, whereas with King Charles you could probably go and lick his face. He's really accessible, he's very tangible, he's very tactile. He really is sort of helping, I think, to modernise the monarchy, and it's not what people expected.
No, and I think the fact that he's been very open with his diagnosis from the moment that he had to go to hospital for the prostate issue, which then obviously subsequently turned out to be, you know, he's been diagnosed with cancer. And you even saw last weekend when he was at Windsor Horse Show, his Zara coming up and giving him a great big hug, you know, very open and very sort of suggesting like any family. So looking very normal in that respect. And I think he is someone who is an emotional person. Sometimes we didn't always see that. Sometimes it got him into hot water. But I think we've also got to put a lot of credit on the Queen for sort of bringing out this side of him. Look, he's like a caged lion, they say, that he's not being able to do all the work that he would like to do since the diagnosis of cancer, although he's been eased back in. But I do think he does want to be out there meeting people, and he knows how important it is for him to be seen to be connecting, because if he doesn't, then that causes a long-term problem. But right now, they're in a
Queen Camilla's popularity, based on the number of people who said they had favorable views of her, that's increased by 43%. Can you imagine this? Having this conversation 30 years ago? Absolutely not. And then more than half of Britain surveyed believe that the King is really doing an amazing job.
Yes, and so he is. And of course, interestingly enough for him, he's going back into public life. We saw him last week looking pretty good. He's hoping to get back into the saddle, practically. He might be appearing on a horse on the Trooping of the Colour. But this week, his wayward son, Harry, is coming back to visit him again. So he must be looking forward to that.
You know, I don't know if it would be described as looking forward to it. I think that he is probably anxious for it. I think anxious is a good way to describe it, because you just don't know what will happen with Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. As we saw, this is the second time that Harry is going to visit his father since they went public with that cancer diagnosis. And don't forget, the first time Harry visited his father after the diagnosis, we turned on Good Morning America almost the next day. And Harry was on Good Morning America talking to an international audience about that meeting. So the King is likely going to look forward to seeing his son, but be very guarded to ensure that he doesn't say anything that might end up in the papers while Harry's on his many royal Nigerian tour a few days later with cameras in his face.
Yeah, exactly right. And he's also coming to London to do a sort of an investiture, if you like, of the Invictus Games. He's going to attend a ceremony at St Paul's Cathedral, I think. But nobody really knows for sure how long he's going to be here. Nobody for sure knows where he's going to stay, presumably in a hotel again, as he won't be given any sort of succour and comfort at the Windsor estate. What are you hearing about where he's going to be?
Well, he typically, as far as I understand, he has a great relationship with Soho House. That was the first place he had a date with Meghan Markle. Meghan's got a great relationship with the guys that run Soho House. He feels safe there. You know, it's an exclusive members only club to begin with. And so that's likely. He'll probably stay in a Soho establishment.
Yes, I'm sure that'll be nice for him. But how long do you think he's going to hang around for? Because we know that last time he saw his dad, Camilla wasn't present because she probably thinks he's a bit of a, you know, an ingrate, really, quite frankly, after the things he said about her. And they only really saw each other for about 15 minutes, didn't they?
Yes, as far as I can tell, I think it was ultimately 12 is what was reported at one point in time. But you're right, Prince Harry described Camilla as the villain and said that she was a dangerous character that threw him under the bus for PR, which was ironic because you're literally reading this while flipping a book called Spare, where he's throwing his family under the bus for PR and a buck.
Prince Harry is coming back. He deserves all the plaudits in the world for Invictus. And also, Kevin, you must remember that everything good he's done was all pre-Meghan. Serving this country, setting up the Cantabile charity, doing all the good things he did in this country were all pre-Meghan. And I don't think that will be lost on people. No. The King, of course, is his younger son.
Michael, will the King see Harry? Will he fit him in? I think the indications are that he'll find a few minutes for him.
I know that you're not a profligate man and you don't bet, but it's worth a fiver down at the wedding shop to say that the King will see him. Yeah. Because he's made it clear that his door is always open to what he calls my darling boy. And of course, he saw him when last Prince Harry made his 11-hour overnight flight when after the King had announced or had it announced that he had cancer, to see him, and he saw him for 35 minutes. Now, you know, the prodigal is always welcome, but the prodigal in the Bible, the prodigal son, the profligate, the wastrel son, has to be penitent, and he has to say sorry, and he has to regret what happened. And then in the Bible it says his father fell upon his neck, which means he embraced him. Well, I'm quite sure the King, who we see there in the most moving scenes when he went to visit the cancer care centre, would love to fall upon his neck, would love to embrace him.
I was under the impression that the King would make a few moments for Prince Harry because they are so close together, you know. But I'm not necessarily surprised because the King is going to do everything in his power right now to protect those who have been loyal to him and to allow peace and healing for not only himself, but other members of his family who are under a lot of stress and strain. I mean, 2024, without a doubt, has not been a great year for the British royal family. And Harry is, you know, a tsunami of hurt, pain, and chaos. That he just is not a peaceful presence.
I've said it for a long time, and like you, I think they're incredibly badly advised. I was very supportive when they first went to America, but you can't go somewhere and say I want freedom and I don't want to be, you know, the press and all that, and then sell your soul for $116 million.
Harry's in St Paul's Cathedral. We believe tonight, royal snub again, not staying at a royal residence, staying at a hotel. Harry's at St Paul's Cathedral. King Charles is down the road in Buckingham Palace, less than 2 miles away. They're not going to see each other. The King is too busy. Now, we know he's hosting a garden party at Buckingham Palace, and we know he's seeing the Prime Minister, but that doesn't mean to say he couldn't find half an hour for his son. What on earth's going on?
It's sad. I wish I knew. Harry has come out and said, well, I understand my father's commitments, and obviously his commitments are being managed to some extent by his medical situation. But today he found time to meet the Prime Minister of Fiji. So I just think it is a sad reflection on the lack of trust, call it what you will, between his side, well, Harry's side of the family, and the King and his side. And that's the problem. And it just feels a bit sad because when any other member of family, you jet in and you may be living in America or whatever, you try and find a way to see your father or mother, and you try and make the diaries work out. And it's not always going to be possible, but at the same time, given the nature of what the king has been through, and Harry obviously is now spending 95% of his time in America, you would have hoped that they'd found a way. But it just reflects the lack of trust, and maybe the king just feels he's not ready emotionally as well as anything else.
Prince Harry arrived in the UK yesterday for the Invictus Games anniversary event today. He's here for 3 days. I mean, it's not like he's here for 20 minutes, 3 days. But the statement came out from the Sussexes, from the spokesman for Prince Harry and Meghan, saying that he wasn't going to see the king because the king had a busy schedule. Now, how busy can a man's schedule be that he can't see his own son, who he's not seen since February for 30 minutes, and for that before then many months? I mean, what is going on? Can we trust what the Sussexes are saying here?
Well, and in that vague verbiage, the Duke, of course, is understanding of his father's diary of commitments and various other priorities, as if he wants us to know that he is clearly not a priority. You know, this is interesting to me, Julia, because sources from both sides told us that we could expect a meeting between these two individuals. Yes. What has happened between last week and this week? Were there negotiations? You know, there are some reports that there were negotiations about who Prince Harry wanted in the room. Was he saying that there could be no Queen Camilla? Just the technical, where were they going to meet? You know, and a back and forth of negotiations, which sounds odd to just see your dad.
Yeah, exactly. But I think so. A week ago, I remember everyone was discussing this. Oh, Prince Harry's going to be in the country. Another chance to see his father, who has been having cancer treatment. He only got to see him for 30 minutes again. I thought that was weird last time. Whistle-stop trip. He was in the country for 24 hours. The king was driving off to Sandringham. I really don't understand why he couldn't see him for longer. That's families. You know, it's complicated. Buckingham Palace are going to have to put out a statement of some sort, because this doesn't look good.
It doesn't look good, but when some royal reporters have asked them directly about this Harry meeting, they've said they no longer comment on the Sussexes, which is icy cold. I mean, that is cold. So I think that they are, if you are a follower and a lover of the royal family, you're okay with this split because you feel like Harry has completely gone out of his way to discredit the royal family. I mean, just think about it. At the end of last year, Julia, Omid Scobie released a book accusing the King and the Princess of Wales of being racist towards Prince Archie. You know, weeks later, these two are diagnosed with cancer. They've been through a lot, and Harry has not helped, you know, bring any sort of peace.
But he's arrived, and his dad hasn't seen him. On the same day that his dad said, "I haven't got time to see you," his dad also made the point that he wants his brother William to head one of the garrisons, one of the army units that Harry used to and had stripped and taken away from him. A lot of people are saying, has the king finally discovered a backbone? And other people are saying, actually, is he being unfair? We'd love to take you part. And we're like, Robert's back, ladies and gentlemen. Very exciting. Robert Jobson, good afternoon. Welcome to Talk Drive. How are you?
Hi, Jeremy.
What happened there, me old son? Technology getting the better of you again?
Again?
I'm only joking. I can't even see Robert's face. Where is he? Put him on the camera. There he is. There's me old mucker. Are you all right?
He is there. All good, all good. Very, very good. I've just been on the Queen Mary lecturing, so I think you should do that. We should do it together.
I think we should. Good. Well, listen, what a day it's been. I'm going to ask you about anything and share a couple of bottles with you as well. Royal diary clash. Can't say I didn't smile that the king hasn't got time to see Harry. Not sure. Some people feel sorry for him. Is this the king with a bit of backbone, Robert, finally, or is it literally true that it is a diary clash?
I think the king's always had backbone, Jeremy. I think the fact is it's difficult when to say no to your children sometimes, but I think Harry might have pushed on a little too much, really, in what he's been doing. I think the king has got a diary clash. He's only just back to public-facing duties. He was busy yesterday, not only with medical things, but also seeing the Prime Minister of Fiji. He's got a big event today, the Garden Party, the first big public-facing event he's had. Now, just because Harry's in town with his circus and his entourage doesn't mean that his father's going to drop everything. And look, I don't think they're on the closest possible terms at the moment. I did talk of a snub and all this is ridiculous because Harry's people will put out the fact that, we approached, we tried, but he didn't want to see us. My understanding is that there wasn't even an official approach, so therefore there's no clash.
This is absolutely extraordinary, isn't it? That everybody, I don't know what your contacts were telling you, but I spoke to quite a few royal correspondents, and they said, "Oh no, he will find time for the king." One of them advised me to put a fiver on it. The king will find time for Harry. He could have found time for Harry, couldn't he?
Could have. Yeah.
Now, to rub salt into Harry's regal wounds, on this very day, or the eve of this very day when this snub unfolded, this epic snub unfolded, last night, the king announced he was making William, of course, Harry's sworn enemy, his bitter brother feud guy, he was making William the commander-in-chief of the regiment, the Air Corps, the Army Air Corps, the regiment that Harry used to serve in. That is a direct message to the Prince of Netflix, isn't it?
That is a slap in the face to Prince Harry. There is no question about that. And for the palace to announce it, I think it was last night, that William and the King will be together where he hands over the patronage of this Army Air Corps, Harry's old regiment. For it to be announced last night is a major slap to Harry. Now, they could have waited until Thursday or Friday to make that announcement, but no, they chose to do it last night. Now, as you quite rightly said, that anybody who thinks that Harry is going to somehow come back into the royal fold, that the olive branch is going to be accepted and taken and so forth, rubbish. It's never going to happen. And you would have thought that before he left California, there would have been some contact between Harry and his father's office to say, look, I'm coming over, can we just get together? But no, they've made it clear that he's not wanted on voyage.
Emily, you were at St Paul's Cathedral ahead of the service.
I was.
Yesterday. What kind of reception did Harry get?
Well, the first thing to say, actually, was there were a lot of police there. Security was very high. And, of course, Harry is still pursuing his case against the British taxpayer and, indeed, at the High Court because he wants his Metropolitan Police security back. But actually, the City of London police were out in full force yesterday. There was some people gathered. There were, people gathered to sort of see Harry. There was a lot of cheering. There's a lot of yes and woo-hoos. Has been reported there were a couple of boos. But yeah, I think Harry got a warm welcome. I mean, for me, Harry's visit this week has solidified two things. One, Meghan never, ever wants to come back to this country again. Yeah. She was on the guest list for the service yesterday, and we've seen her at many, many other Invictus events. She's made it perfectly clear that she doesn't really want to come back to the UK. Maybe she will come back via London Heathrow, and Harry will whisk her from the Windsor Suite, and then they'll go on to Nigeria together. And the other thing I think is clear is that back in February, when Harry jumped on that plane to come here, when his father phoned him to tell him that he was about to undergo cancer treatment, Charles did see him, and Harry thought he was going to see his father in Sandringham. His car actually had to be turned round to take him back to Clarence House. He was on his way to Norfolk. And I think we all interpreted that then as, olive branch, reconciliation. I actually think nothing has changed with the members of the royal family, and they just don't trust him, and they do not want to see him.
The tears in the relationship began when Meghan Markle joined the family. Meghan Markle certainly gives Harry some sort of false confidence or false justification for his actions. And I do think that he wouldn't behave as poorly as he does if she didn't have him in the background cheering him on.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at her, as you say, she's estranged from her father. She's estranged from the rest of her family. Look at all her friends go around like a merry-go-round. She keeps them for a couple of weeks and then they go.
And employees.
Yeah, and employees. What is it about this woman that seems to attract so much attrition from other human beings? And what is it about her?
She's highly insecure. She feels out of place. I talked to the author Tom Quinn, who said she was cruel to staff at Kensington Palace because she was are already paranoid that they were never going to respect her and acknowledge her as a royal. So to try to ensure that they respected her, she kind of bullied them, he says. And I think we heard about this. Meghan talks about the checked box at school, sitting at school and having the box that says, what are you? Are you white? Are you black? And going home and saying to her dad, what do I mark? And her dad
I'll tell you what she marks, it's Kinsey. She marks, I'm 43% Nigerian, which she's conveniently just found out.
Yeah, I just think that she's highly insecure, and because she's highly insecure, she lashes out at people, and it's just not the way that you make, it's not the way you make friends around here. It's not the way that you, it's not good leadership at the end of the day.